Welcome to the Renaissance Humanism podcast. Today's purpose of this podcast is to tell you what this podcast is about and to introduce you to the host, the producer and the speaker for this podcast. That is myself. My name's Jonathan Riley. First I'm going to go into the information about this podcast, then more about my background, just so you know who you listen to, what this podcast is about, and is it worth tuning in to me in the future if I am somebody who actually can give you some information and is this worth your time? Okay, the purpose of this podcast is to provide you with information about personal and professional development, skills acquisition related to the digital economy, and to develop writing skills, because in my day life, in my normal job, I work as a content writer, copywriter, and at the moment I'm doing work freelancing. As for the podcast as well, more information about the podcast. The reason why I chose the name Renaissance Humanism, because the Renaissance, the idea of a Renaissance man, or I should say to be more inclusive in these days, Renaissance woman, Renaissance man, Renaissance person, is that this person has a large toolkit. And in the modern context, this person, they look after themselves, they watch what they eat, they're well educated. I don't mean necessarily through universities or colleges, but they are well read and they have multiple skill sets. This is important for the world we live in today because of automisation. Your jobs are no longer safe, and also that traditional working class jobs, they're going to be automised, so new skill sets, you will require new skill sets to be competitive, to feed your family and to give you long-term job security, because you haven't just got to look after yourself, your children, you've also got to be planning for your retirement as well. So getting new skills, gaining more knowledge and being in touch with reality is the best interest of yourself, of your family, because the only way to improve is to accept that there's always room for improvement, and that by improving skills, by continuing to learn, you'll get more out of life. Too many of us get medicated by social media, by going on our phones all the time, by watching YouTube, Instagram, and that's killing our productivity and also damaging our minds as well. It's been found out that a child, an adult, someone like below the age of 18, who constantly goes on social media, Facebook, constantly playing with their phones, they have the memories or the quality memory of a 75-year-old or somebody in their 70s, because they're not really making new memories, they're not developing connection with people. This is why we have a rise in autism, because people are not learning how to communicate, and it's making us socially retarded. The millennial generation, the new generation Z, we just don't have these people skills that is necessary to succeed in life. So that's the purpose of this podcast. There's also a deeper philosophical element as well, because the reason why I chose Renaissance Humanism and that appear is that there's a big school of thought related to the development of our modern world which we have today. The modern world comes from this period, and a group of philosophers from antiquity like Plutarch, Aristotle, Plato, where they talk about democracy and the purpose of the state and the purpose, what we can, in the word of JFK, don't ask yourself what you can do, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. They put forward these like living your life according to virtues and living a life that is dedicated to the state or a greater purpose. Is that they were also against the corruption and the perceived corruption of princes, of kings in Europe, and also that the blame that the why Rome fell, why antiquity ended, was because of the corruption of the Roman people by vices. The longer this podcast continues, I will be adding new content to the podcast on a wide range of topics related to personal professional development, related to skills acquisition, the kind of skills you need to develop, and also it will be related to history and culture and also political as this podcast develops. You can find more information on what this podcast will be about if you go on my personal blog for this podcast and for my content, which this podcast has grown out of. It's called Renaissance Humanism, all one word, renaissancehumanism.co.uk. I'll leave the link in the description if it gives me the option to leave the link, depending on which platform you are listening or viewing this podcast from. As for myself, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, my name is Jonathan Riley. My background, I've mostly, professionally wise, I've worked as a content writer for 6 months. I've been working freelance now for over 3 months. I have prior experiences. The very first work I've ever done was working for my parents' market stall. I did that for 8 years while I was at university and college, just to get a bit of money. And through that experience, it gave me my first taste of entrepreneurial skills and the ability to emote and communicate with different kinds of customers. I spent a month as a door-to-door salesman as well. I've spent 12 months selling cosmetic products for Oriflame Cosmetics as a brand partner. I did that for 12 months, going door to door, trying to sell products, and also selling products online to customers. That's doing makeup videos, that kind of stuff. I've also worked at Lloyds Banking Group as a customer service stockbroker. I've done that for 4 months. I've spent 10 weeks as a market researcher, and I believe that covers up pretty much everything. I will also leave a link to my LinkedIn as well, so you can look me up. You can see whether I'm not worth listening to or whether you don't feel this is appropriate. But I think my background, what I've written for the blog, I believe the content will suit your needs and it will be helpful. If you wish to communicate, have any questions, please leave some comments in the description, or please message me on the social media link, or follow me online. Okay, thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was just the introduction. Enjoy.